Before we begin, we want to acknowledge that some stories and discussions in this episode of Radiant Resilience may touch on sensitive and potentially triggering topics. These may include themes of accidents and trauma, disabilities, hustle culture, fear and anxiety, and overcoming challenges. Our goal is to share real life experiences in a respectful and empathetic manner, offering insights into the complexities of the human spirit and the journey towards resilience. However, we understand that some content might be difficult for listeners. We encourage you to prioritize your well being and discretion when deciding to listen. Please remember this podcast is not a substitute for professional advice or support. If you find yourself needing assistance, we urge you to seek help from qualified professionals or trusted support systems. Your mental and emotional health is important to us. Thank you for your courage and for joining us in a space of understanding and compassion. Welcome back to Radiant Resilience, everyone. I am excited for this conversation that we're going to be having today. I am here with Jennifer Henczel today. She is a podcaster, author, and founder of the Women in Podcasting Network and Inspiring Innovators Club. Jennifer's mission is to lift women's voices and stories globally. Jennifer is known for her ability to build thriving, supportive, and collaborative communities, and she teaches others how to do the same. She loves creating opportunities for women to connect and collaborate in meaningful ways. Using her Rise, Reach, Results roadmap, Jennifer provides tools, templates, and trainings to help her members generate more impact and influence. Jennifer speaks about her mindset, messaging, and monetization strategies for building communities, leveraging content, and turning expertise into multiple streams of income. Jennifer is an award-winning leader and has won or been nominated for a number of awards. Most recently, she's the winner of the Innovator of the Year Award at the Quill Podcast Awards. That's quite the achievement. Congratulations on that.
Oh, thank you. And then the other day, I just won a podcast award, the top
Oh,
podcasting awards I won in the business category. So
oh,
that was exciting.
amazing. Congratulations. Thank you for taking some time out of your busy schedule to chat with us today. We were talking a little bit before recording, and I think Jennifer is going to tell us a little bit about herself and her personal journey, and then we'll talk more about what she does for mindset, and maybe we'll touch a little bit on the business stuff too, because I'm a business person, so that could be fun too. So go right ahead.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Tani. And I really appreciate connecting with you and for you having me on the show. Thanks so much for having me. For many years, I had my business as a side gig. And beyond business, for me, the lifestyle really damaged my health and
Mm,
my mindset, my physical, my wellness in every way. And so I was in hustle mode.
mhm.
I was working 12, 14, 16 hours a day. And it just wasn't working for me. And I really wanted to turn my business, which was part-time, into my full-time income. And then finally, I figured out in 2012, I was able to finally do that. And I turned my side gig into my full-time income. And I've never looked back. I've never worked for anyone else. And that really took some mindset shifts
Mhm.
that I worked in corporate and we continually had professional development. I thought I had that nailed. I thought oh no, my mindset's in great shape. No, to be an entrepreneur takes a whole nother set of mindset approaches and also for health and being as well.
Mhm.
And so one day I was at work and I got a phone call that no one wants to receive. It was my husband's boss. And he said, "You've got to come to the hospital right away because your husband's been in a bad accident."
Oh no.
And I was all the way to the hospital. I thought, I'm not going to lose my best friend today. And
Yeah.
and so I finally got to the hospital and I didn't recognize my husband at first. I couldn't find him because I didn't recognize him. He had been crushed by 12,000 pounds of wood at work. He was a foreman in a mill.
Oh my gosh.
And so thankfully he survived, but the recovery's been long. He's been left with some permanent disabilities. And one of the things, though, that really inspired me, his courage, for one thing. He was so courageous through everything. And I noticed that the communities he was involved in before his accident now came around and rallied around him. And one of the communities was a sort of a football community because he was a volunteer football coach and announcer in the community. And football coaches and players would come around and say, "We're here for you, Coach Paul." And that really touched me.
Mhm.
It really, this whole thing, it blew up our lives, but it really ignited a spark in me where I didn't want to live in a way that wasn't fitting my lifestyle or my wellness anymore. And yeah, and so I thought, well, one of the things I'm missing is that kind of camaraderie in the business world.
Mm.
And so I invited I wasn't very organized with it back then. I invited some just other business owners just on my socials who wants to join me for lunch. To my surprise, 50 business owners showed up.
Oh, wow.
And
That's
so
huge.
yeah. And so the little room I had reserved was overflowing. And that one meeting turned into a group, and the group turned into a huge network. And I ended up owning and running a large network, business network for several years. And in that time, I planned and organized over 600 events. And I was able to use my platform to also help my husband go from an injured male worker to an international speaker. And
Mm.
he's done a TED Talk and written a book about our story. And we really found that storytelling and community building were a key to his recovery, to both of our recoveries, and it helped me go from turn that side gig into my full-time business. And it was all about connection, connecting with
Mm.
others.
It's so important, especially in a world that the world we're living in right now, for one, is a huge hustle culture right now, right? And for two, we're also going into the more and more like deeper into the technology age and things like that, where we're connected more than we've ever been, but we're also disconnected more than we've ever been. And it is so important, no matter what you're going through, I think, to have some type of community around you because it can be debilitatingly lonely or isolating and scary when you're by yourself like that.
Oh, totally. I found out that for anything to work, you need to be part of a community. And
Mm,
you need to build your circle of support around you. It's not going to build itself. And if you want to grow, I know a lot of podcasters, of course, with having women in podcasting, and people want to grow a community around their podcast, but you need to be community minded before
mm,
you can build your own community around your message. And people will help you if you show up to be helped.
yeah.
And so you need to show up authentically as you,
Mm,
not as somebody else, not as something else you've seen, but you need to really put yourself in that position of being supported and being part of a community. And then the myth is that the one who has the greatest website, the one who has the greatest, all the courses and everything in line and all this kind of stuff is the one who's going to make the most money and work and hustle 12, 14, 16 hours a day like I was doing. But it's not true. It's
mm,
actually, you need to be in alignment with your goals and in alignment with the audience that you're serving. And when you put your passion into the world and you're serving others with it, that becomes your purpose. And
mm,
so the problem is that I was trying to do everything alone.
mm.
And hustling alone on your own island isn't very fun. Like you said, it's very isolating. But taking that journey with others is what will enrich your life and fill you with opportunities because every connection you make is a new story and a new opportunity. And stories create opportunities, and opportunities create more stories.
Yeah, that's great. That's part of why I decided to do this podcast because I went through a time where I felt very lonely and it was in a very dark place. And I'm like, I don't want anybody to feel that way in any, whether it's business, whether it's anything, because we're all on this planet just trying to make it through everyday life and provide for our families and live our best lives to our best potential. And I think it's easy to forget about that when you get caught up in the day-to-day hustle.
Totally. Yes. I had to flip all the scripts in my mind, the ones that say you have to do everything alone, the ones
Mm,
that say you don't need other people, right? You have to be polished to show up. But it's
mm,
just not true. You just need to be you to show up and bring your gifts and passion. It's funny how we put everything that's our greatest dream, our greatest passion on the way further, the furthest back burner.
mm.
But why do we do that? And so I pulled all that stuff forward and I bet on myself for once. I put all my favorite things, all my passions in the forefront and it worked. If we put our energy into the things that we want to bring into the world, it's going to make a difference in our own lives and in other people's lives.
Yeah, for sure. And we live such short lives too. Don't waste your time with things that don't light you up. But we're also stuck in jobs we don't like or marriages we don't like or whatever. There's so many different things and it's so hard. It can be really scary to get out of that. I'm wondering too if when you thought you had to be a one-woman show, was some of that control as well?
Oh, totally. I mean, I just thought it's quicker and faster if I just do everything myself and just try to get it all accomplished. And when I let go and actually spent quality time with people and just listening and serving rather than what can I get out of this? What can I get out of that? What can
Mm.
and working everything in the physical, whereas some of it really is manifestation has to do with sometimes letting go, not clinging so hard to everything and white knuckling it through every situation. Sometimes if you let things go, it opens the door for new things to flow in that are going to help you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think not chasing, I think sometimes we think that manifesting is chasing something too. And yeah, that's a hard lesson to learn though, to let go. That's a hard mindset thing to change for sure.
Yeah, rather than chasing, attracting, right?
Yeah.
Turning your
Yeah.
mindset towards attracting. And one of the things that the beginning steps of my ascension journey in that way on this mountain of entrepreneurship and better wellness and things like that started in the deepest valley. But as you could hear from my story, I was inspired by a football community. And so I like to say, drop the hustle and join the huddle.
Oh, I love that.
So, because I really love community building and building communities around everything I do involves community building and connection.
Yeah, that's fantastic. How long? So I'm assuming when you got the call about your husband, you were still doing your corporate job at that point?
Yes. So I was still working full time and had my side gig.
Yeah. So how long after his accident were you able to do your side gig?
It was probably about a year and a half to 2 years. Yeah.
Okay. So a
It was a
little
couple of
bit.
years.
Did you feel like you still had to build up the side gig more?
Yeah, when I was really working both hard because of course with my husband being injured, I had to work, bring in
Yeah.
extra income and work extra hard. And at one point I said to myself, okay, I'm going to give myself 1 month. I had been laid off by my corporate job. And so I said, I'm going to give myself 1 month. And I did it. I did
Yeah.
it. I put all my chips on
Mm.
myself instead of making money for someone. Because I know the marketing end of things. And so I had been making money for other companies, but I just did that for myself. And for me, the missing piece was the mindset stuff. So I
Mm.
had all the marketing skills, but the mindset stuff was what I had to overcome and not cling to every task, doing every single thing and working so hard and trying to bulldoze my way through it instead of just releasing my passions into the world and see what happens, you know?
Yeah.
And it worked.
What key mindset things did you have to change were the hardest ones for you to change?
So definitely the community building one and connecting with others has a huge value. And that's what's going to be really, that's what it comes down to. And that's what it's all about is connecting with other humans. And then the other thing is to have the courage to realize that your ideas are not enough.
Mm.
Because I had this thought, but I'm great at this marketing stuff. I can do it. I know about it. Why isn't my side gig working? It's because I didn't have the courage to realize yeah, those are great ideas, but you need to actually do all the stuff you learned
Yeah.
because learning is great, but if unless you put into practice what you actually know and have learned and take inspired action on your passion, then you're not going to see it come alive. You're going to have great ideas that nobody else is going to know about, right? So
Yeah.
and so I knew the strategies and I just had to work. I had to stop stopping,
Mm.
and I had to have the courage. And one of the things I did when I recently, not recently, it was 6 years ago, when I turned 50, I went skydiving for my 50th
Oh.
birthday. And so we went up in the plane and we got higher and higher. And I was doing great. I was doing great. They were like, we're at 5,000 miles up now. And I was like, oh my goodness, are we going to jump? Nope, we go to 10,000. And so we went
Oh
higher
my
and higher.
gosh. That's
But
terrifying to me.
I was doing great that whole time until it was our time to go.
Mm.
So the door opened and people just started falling out, which is very unnatural. That's very
Yeah.
shocking when most of us have
Yeah.
been on an airplane and the door doesn't open and people don't fall out, but they were just rolling out of the plane.
Yeah.
And so it was our turn and I nudged towards the door and still I didn't have a lot of fear still at that moment. But then we stepped out and you have to step onto a little stair on the outside of the plane. It's a moving plane in the air and you have to stand on a stair on the outside of the plane
Oh
before
my
you jump. That's where I felt fearful right before the leap. And then
God.
we took the
Mm.
leap. And I don't know if you know this about skydiving, But once you take the position that they show you, it just feels like flying and floating. It doesn't feel like falling. So it only felt like falling for 3 to 5 seconds, and then it felt like floating. And the view at first, when I had first stepped on the step, was frightening. I saw the curve of the earth and it was frightening. But then once we took the leap and it just felt like floating, the whole view turned into a beautiful view. I could see all the landmarks in my city, and it was so beautiful and stunning. And then I landed safely. I like to look at this situation and think the only time really that I was fearful was right before the leap.
Oh, yeah.
And so I apply that to my own life, because every time I think, oh, I don't know if I should do that, or I have fear about something, I think, okay, so what's on the other side? What's on the other
Mm.
side of that fear? What's going to happen if I do, if I'm brave enough to take the leap? And so I just encourage everybody to take the leap, because take the leap for your own passion and see what's on the other side.
It's a scary thing, though. Such a scary thing. What do you say to somebody who is maybe in that position that's on the verge of a leap, but hasn't quite brought themselves to do that yet?
I'm so glad I finally had the courage to turn my ideas into reality, to really just dive into really those all those things that I had on the back burner, and really spend my time and my energy, because as we know, where your focus goes, your energy flows. And so I was putting my focus on the things that I wanted to help others with. I wanted to serve the world with my passion. And then that's when opportunities came flowing to me
Mm.
that I never would have imagined. And that wouldn't have happened unless I had let open the door and let those things flow towards me. So sometimes you have to give yourself a chance. Give yourself a chance, because you're giving, if you're working for an employer and you're wanting to make that transition, or you're just doing something you don't want to do, give yourself a chance. Give yourself a certain amount of time, and you
Mm.
need to really focus on one thing, right? If you try to still stay focused on all the things, that's going to make it more difficult. If you just focus on one aspect of your passion that you want to bring into the world, that will make all the difference. I think you'll be surprised at what happens for you, because opportunities will open up and flow towards you that you never even imagined.
Yeah, that's amazing. Did you always have a manifestation woo-woo look at life, or was that
Oh,
newer later in life?
that's new since this whole situation happened in our life. Then we opened ourselves up to a lot more meditation. We were doing some meditation and things before that, but now we really practice a lot of meditation and affirmations. We brought in a lot of modalities that we didn't have in our life before that. Yeah.
Yeah, what do you want to elaborate on that a little bit? What modalities do you have?
Yeah, so we, like I said, that we study manifestation a lot. We became NLP practitioners.
What's that?
NLP, neuro linguistic programming. So it has to do with how your brain works and language, how you use language, and how you can set goals, and how you can train your brain in a more productive way that works for you. Being more conscious, it's all about being more conscious
Mm-hmm.
and not operating unconsciously, because we have so many unconscious limiting beliefs, so many
Mm-hmm.
unconscious habits, so many unconscious actions that we do every day. And we're wondering, why aren't things working for us? It's because we're locked into these beliefs that we didn't even realize we had.
Mm-hmm.
And so letting go, being aware, first of all, of those things, and then letting go of them opens up huge opportunities for other things to flow into your life that you really want to manifest and that you want to see happen in your life.
Mm. I love that. That's great. Does your husband work with you now then?
Yeah, so he's been on many stages now. We both speak, and
Okay,
we have a podcast together called Inspiring Innovators Show.
nice. I will link all that in the show notes. I have all of your links for all the things. So what does it look like for somebody to work with you then?
Yeah, so I have different levels of membership. I have a lot of I offer, so I really have a passion for women podcasters
Mm-hmm.
and entrepreneurs. And so I have groups that serve those people. And so I have a really my lowest cost membership for them to help elevate women's voices globally and in the podcasting industry. And so I have a very low cost membership for them. And then I have memberships where I also, my background is in curriculum development and
Okay.
instruction. And so I create a lot of courses, and I can create them quite easily for me. And so I give them my curriculum and my programs and my templates and things like that that they can customize and use in their own programs. So that's another level of membership. And then I have a membership that's a mastermind where people can have all of those things, all the memberships, plus meet with me once a month.
Oh, so you do one-on-ones.
I do group coaching and one-on-one. So I have a once a month group coaching, and then I also have strategy sessions where people can work with me one-on-one. Yeah.
Awesome. And what drove your passion towards helping mostly women?
My business network that I had was co-ed, so it was all genders, but I really wanted to just dive in to help other women entrepreneurs. I could see the gap in the podcasting industry too, that it's
Mhm.
very male dominated, and so I really wanted to work towards elevating women's voices globally.
And how many podcasts do you have? Do you just have the one with your husband?
I have two. So we have the
Okay.
Inspiring Innovator show, and then I have women podcasters. No,
That's right.
sorry, women
That's
in my
right.
podcasting show. Yeah.
When did you start the podcast?
So the funny thing is, I studied podcasting for 10 years before I started my podcast. So a lot of students will say to me, a lot of my members and things like that will say, "Oh, I waited a year to start my podcast." And I'm like, "Oh, I've got you beat. I studied it for 10 years. I did some things in the industry. I got a lot of connections in the industry. I did some editing and things like that, but I didn't actually start my podcasts until the end of 2019.
Oh, wow.
So I've been doing them for 5 years, just over.
Why did you wait so long to start it? Were you nervous? Were you overthinking it? What was the story there?
With my husband's recovery, it did take quite a number of years to get him to a point where I didn't have to work so hard and so many hours. And then also the technology
Hmm.
got so much better about 5 years ago. Before that, it was really over my head and too much to take on. And now it's easier than ever for anyone to start a podcast or a business. And it just, the ease of the technology, I think, was the deciding factor.
Yeah, I know a few people that have been trying to start podcasts, and I think they're completely overthinking it a lot of the times too. And I did that to a point too, but at one point I was just like, I'm just going to go for this and see what happens.
Yeah.
Because I'm a hairdresser normally, so that's my day job. And then this is just for fun. But yeah, I think sometimes just jumping into stuff like that, like you said, jump off the ledge and just see what happens. And then you learn as you go.
Exactly. Yeah, podcasting definitely is something that you need to do to learn. Even my sound, if you listen to my early episodes, isn't the best.
Yeah.
And I went through lots of microphones before I landed on this one. And you just have to try different things. And so we didn't have any fear around the speaking part of it or anything like
Okay.
that or the message, but it was just getting the tech in place. And some of that came with starting to do it. You have to really do it. My
Yeah.
coach at the time, who's a well-known guy in the podcasting industry, he said to me, your first episode is never going to be as good as your 10th episode.
Yeah.
Your 10th episode's going to be better than your 20th episode's going to be better than your earlier episodes. So you have to it's something you have to do
Mhm.
and actually get some experience before you can really learn it.
Yeah, for sure. It's been a lot of fun for me. I've really enjoyed just doing it for fun. So I
Yeah.
would like to maybe turn it into a business at some point, but we'll
Mhm.
see. Also, there's something to be said about making it a job instead of something that you want to do too. So,
Mhm.
but yeah, do you work with all different types of businesses?
Yes, pretty much every niche I can imagine, I
Every
work with.
industry?
Yeah. Now, I specialize in monetization methods other than sponsorship. So, a lot of podcasters, and I don't just work with podcasters, I have lots of entrepreneurs who aren't podcasters as well, but authors and different things like that,
Mm,
and coaches. But with podcasts, to monetize, a lot of people just think it's sponsorship, but really, sponsorship isn't going to make you a huge amount of money unless you have a giant audience.
mm,
And so you need such a large PR budget to get those numbers because real sponsors are going to look at the stats and want to know the numbers, which is really difficult unless you have a
right.
huge PR budget. Like I was saying, specialize in other methods to don't rely, you can have a community of any size with the methods that I use. And you don't need those high stats. So you can still have arrangements that I would call strategic partnerships where someone sponsors your episodes. Maybe they pay, but they're not looking at the stats. They're looking more at your niche and what you're
Mm,
offering and being participating in that way. That's a strategic, you know, partnership.
yeah,
So a little different than a sponsorship, but I specialize in other ways of monetizing.
very nice. But you do general business coaching as well, right? And that's just all different industries and you've worked with so many different people. I bet you've heard so many different walks of life.
Yeah. So I also was in addition to being an instructor, what I first instructed in was international trade. And so I have a diploma in international trade, and I was a consultant for the government for a couple of years. And that's where I learned how to really consult and work with small businesses. And then I moved into when social media came around, I would help people with social media and teaching businesses how to do that. And I did those workshops for about 5 years. So it was called Social Smart Start. And I would teach every month, I would teach entrepreneurs how to use social media for their business. So that was quite a number of years ago. And now I just teach community building, how to build a community around your message.
And is that like employees? Is that delegating certain tasks out? What does that community in business mean to you?
So mostly building a community around your message to monetize that community with the different monetization strategies that I teach. So courses, memberships, affiliate,
Okay.
doing affiliate sales, things like that.
Very nice. I'm so glad that you've gotten to do what you love. It's amazing. It's unfortunate that sometimes it takes those dramatic things in our lives and traumatic things in our lives to change your mindset. But there's people out there that don't ever change their mindset and then they get stuck in that. And that's tough too, because like I said, we only have the one life to live. So might as well live it your best way possible.
And consciously.
Yeah. Yeah.
Consciously. So that makes the biggest difference is I feel I'm living so much more consciously now and attracting those things that I want into my life rather than before it was just constantly I was so busy that I was just attracting more busyness, you know?
Oh, yeah, that's
So,
good.
yeah.
Do you talk to people about work-life balance then?
Somewhat, we definitely, some of those methodologies that we brought on have to do with self-care. So everything from the melt method, for example, your foam roller that you have and you lay on it for your spine and your legs and arms and things like that. We do that every day. We do more movement and some dancing and different things that just bring us joy, to feel joy in our bodies and our minds and take that time to do that. Because if you don't give yourself a break and really give yourself that time to relax your mind and you're just going 24 hours, that can accumulate and cause problems, like a lot of health problems and mental problems and things like that. And so it really recharges us. And also we do neurographics, which is a type of drawing. And that I find gives my brain a very huge break. That probably even as much, if not more than meditation. Does something for my brain. I can't explain it. If you look up neurographics, you can see that it does something with your brain when you're doing it, but it's like a very relaxing and just a release for my brain. It's like it resets my brain.
That's really cool. I had somebody tell me one time that meditation can be a lot of different forms, and I never really thought, I think we all generally think of sitting cross-legged on the floor with your eyes closed for 30 minutes or however long. But I had somebody tell me that even running is a form of meditation, and driving even sometimes is a form of meditation, because when you're going the same path all the time, you just do it and don't really think about it. And I thought that was a really cool way to reframe the way we look at meditation, because I was always picturing that and that I need to sit down every morning and just shut out the world. But that's so hard to do for some. And I really struggle with it. I have a really hard time shutting my brain off in that type of an environment. So I need something, I think everybody needs to find their thing. And I love that helps you more than anything.
Yes. Yeah. And there's transcendental meditation where you don't have to shut off all the noise. You just repeat a mantra to yourself. And the neurographics is like that. You're repeating patterns and drawing them, and it does the same kind of thing for your brain. It's really neat.
Yeah. And rest is so important, isn't it? It's so true. And I'm in an overstimulating industry as well. I've had to really cut back. That's why I was asking you about like work-life balance, because hairdressers are known for overworking ourselves because we have this scarcity mentality of, if I don't take everything and everyone and say yes to everything and everyone, I'm never going to make any money. And I recently had a mentor who completely changed my mindset on that. And then physically, it's also a job that is physically nearly impossible to keep doing, 5 days a week, 12 hours a day. Like, I could do it in my
Mhm.
20s, but not anymore. And then, yeah, just going to work. And I think this is probably with a lot of people that go to work in companies, you're stimulated by talking to people all day and stuff like that too, or working on a computer all day. That can be overstimulating in its own way too. So maybe finding stuff for yourself that works to take you away and take some rest and recharge, and then you'll come back a better version of yourself for that job, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Refreshed, more energy, and the willingness and scheduling the time to connect with others. As in your industry, that's so important. And to really connect and get those people rather than just when I look at businesses that are doing all the right things, some of the focus is rather than just thinking about getting clients, think about getting champions
Oh,
around your message. And
okay.
so when you have champions, it's more about people that get you, they align with you, they get your vibe, and they're listening to your message. So listeners to your podcast, they're champions of your message. They're hearing your message. They want to hear what you have to contribute and the guests that you bring on. And that's really important is that we connect with those other people that are champions for us and we can be champions for them and building a community around whatever you do. So even being what you do, a stylist, you're a stylist?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hairstylist.
Yeah. So do you participate in community events? Do you hold community events in your place or,
Nope.
some kind of network or something? Yeah.
No, but I would love to have some ideas on that. I don't own the salon that I work at. I just rent the chair, but
Yeah. And just connecting with other entrepreneurs because they can help get your word out too
yeah.
and spread the word of what you offer and things like that. And
Yeah,
just,
I've often thought about trying to collaborate with some of the other local small businesses, and I haven't quite figured out how exactly to do that in the best way possible, but I would like to do something like that because I've thought about that. Even just like client Christmas gifts that I do every year, maybe doing a little gift card for the local coffee shop or something like that to try to help promote them as well. But I've not jumped on that yet, so.
yeah. It really all starts with connection. Find a way to connect with others on a regular basis and they'll be your champions and your walking billboards and tell anyone they can about what you offer and you'll do the same for them and it's reciprocal and it's community and it's engaging and it really enriches our life and it makes our businesses fulfilling,
Yeah.
so not just filling our businesses with clients but it makes it also fulfilling in that we
Mhm.
want to do it and it keeps us fueled up to keep going, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, absolutely. Tell me more about your Rise Reach Results roadmap.
Yeah, so one of the models that we created in our business involves three mountains. And so the first mountain is the mountain mindset. And the second mountain is Mount Message. And the third mountain is Mount Monetize. And so we help people scale each of them, those mountains. So we believe that you need to scale each of those mountains in order to achieve a full picture of your life and business, like the life business balance you were talking about
Mhm.
before. You need to have all those three mountains scaled in order to really thrive in your life and business. And so for me, I had the Mount Monetize mastered, and I had most of Mount Message mastered, but I really needed to work on Mount Mindset. So in Mount Message, for example, I was going to networking events before I had this epiphany and change in our life, this transformation. I would go to networking events and say, I offer marketing, this marketing stuff. Which marketing service would you like? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I've been to those
And
events.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But what I learned was you need to know your audience and you need to offer them one solution to one of their problems.
Mm.
And so in your introduction, so now having my own mastering my introduction after that and learning that you need to focus on one thing and one solution. And then having that network and my current business and network, I've seen thousands of introductions, those networking type introductions,
Yeah.
elevator pitches,
Yeah.
a mini pitch. And so I've seen people who speak for 20 seconds and get the whole room wanting to line up and talk to them after. And then I've seen someone ramble on for 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes and you don't even know what they're offering anymore. You need to be the person who offers X. The person who offers A, B, C, not the person who offers the entire, you know, universe of marketing or the entire universe of styling. You need to
Yeah.
focus on one thing and offer that and specialize in that and be the go-to person for that. And so once I did that, that is one of the things that really helped me break through also. And so now I have a complimentary program too that people can watch and take so that they can nail their mini introduction and focus on that one thing. You can find that at womeninpodcasting.net.
Love that. That's pretty great. Because, yeah. And how much of that is consumer behavior too? Because I know consumer behavior kind of changed in the last few years to wanting more specialized people versus the jacks of all trades. Do you think that will ever change back?
Even if you offer a wide suite of things that help people, the point is to show up and mention that one thing that's going to solve something. And it's not about mentioning everything
Mm-hmm.
all at once. It's about saying one thing that will draw people in, and then you can introduce them to all of your other things. Because none of us are just one thing. We all have multiple
Yeah.
interests and,
Yeah.
aspects of our business and things like that. But it's about getting people's interest to come and talk to you. And then you can introduce them to the other various options that you have and things like that.
That's amazing. You seem to have a lot of free resources out there too. So that's really cool. So everybody definitely go and check that out. And like I said, I'll link everything in the show notes. But what else? Do you have any advice for any of my listeners out there on based on what we've talked about so far?
We'll definitely become part of a community
Okay.
and take the leap and pursue your passion, bet
Mm,
on yourself,
mm,
and embrace the talents and skills that you have and offer those to the world. Put your passion into the world, and that will be your purpose. And
mm,
then to attract your ideal audience, first identify your ideal audience and then come up with one solution to one problem
mm.
that they have.
What do you say to somebody who's maybe struggling with the fear of failure, not quite making that jump because they're afraid maybe they won't make as much money, or maybe they're afraid that they'll just suck at it and crash and burn?
Yeah, I mean, I can totally understand that. I was trapped in that for many years. And
Yeah.
so I would say give it a certain time frame, give it a certain time frame and just focus on your passions for that time frame. Really commit to it
Mm,
for certain. So I had given myself a month to
yeah.
make it happen. If it didn't happen in a month, I would have had to have gotten a job really quickly.
Mm,
Give yourself a time frame. And then also take a look at those limiting beliefs.
mm,
What is that fear? What is the source of the fear is just a symptom.
yeah.
What is the source of the fear? What is the belief? Everything comes down to beliefs. Everything. Everything is about beliefs. What scripts are you telling yourself every day? That will reveal the beliefs. So you could start with writing down the different thoughts that come up, the different types, and how often. You might be surprised at how often negative things come up. And when we tell ourselves negative things, our mind and body are going to unconsciously try to prove that to be right.
Yeah.
And so we need to find ways to combat those, replace those. And so my husband and I love affirmations. That's another modality that
Mm,
we've brought on. And so the thing with affirmations is they're best when you're in theta, so just falling asleep or just waking up.
okay.
But if you need to replace thoughts throughout the day as well, then definitely have them. We have them. I have one right here on my desk with we have them in little
Oh,
frames
yeah.
throughout the house.
Love that.
Yeah. And so we have them on mirrors and in little frames all around our place. And so we love replacing our thoughts with, and it's an ongoing progress and work because once you conquer some things, then there may be some other things that come up that you need to conquer. And we replace our negative thoughts with these affirmations.
Yeah, I believe we're definitely all still a work in progress and will be the rest of our lives. We're never going to get to that point of being totally healed. Everything's great, everything, because then something's going to happen. Life's going to throw something at you. The universe is going to throw something at you. And then you've got a new challenge you have to face and work through. And life can be hard. Definitely, we all need to keep working on ourselves we're just always going to be a work in progress.
Totally. Yes. Yeah.
Do you have any final parting words, Jennifer, for everybody listening, other than what you already said?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on the show. I just love what you're doing.
Thank
And
you.
everything you're offering and
Thank
what
you.
you're bringing into the world is just spectacular and wonderful. And I hope everybody follows your show and gives you a good review on your show because I've listened to a few episodes and I really enjoy it.
Thank
What you're
you.
doing is a great
Thank
job.
you. Oh, that means a lot. Thank you so much. I did. That was something I actually was running one day when it all dropped in. I think I was in that meditation mindset and I was listening to a different podcast and it all just flowed in. And I was like, I just need to do this because I've been wanting to do it for a while and I love doing it. And I've met so many inspirational people and heard so many amazing stories. And so I'm very grateful to everyone who's been willing to come on and share their stories, including you. So thank you so much for sharing that and sharing all that you have to offer. And I'm excited. I need to dive a little deeper into some of your podcasting stuff. So that you offer. Yes. And thank you for everything you're doing for women in podcasting and women entrepreneurs in general, because we definitely need to be seen and heard a lot more in this world still. So we've come a long way, but we've got a long ways to go still. So
True.
thank you.
Thank you
And
so
thank
much.
you so much for coming on. And I hope you guys all enjoyed this episode. We'll see you on the next one.
Thank you.
Mhm.